This is a quick video with the aim of showing you how to wire up an Arduino in order to be a light sensor. And so we're going to use a couple of things to do that. The first thing that you'll need is your Arduino Uno. We're also going to use a breadboard just to prototype and to make it easier to wire up. You're going to need a 10K resistor. You're going to need a photocell, and you're also going to need 3 jumper wires. So what we're going to do is create our circuit first of all. So we're going to run from our Arduino, and you'll see the ports on the Arduino are labelled. We're going to find the 5-volt Arduino port, and we're going to run 1 jumper cable into that 5-volt port. Then we're going to come out and into our breadboard. We're going to go into row number 1. From row number 1, we're going to take our photocell, and it's going to jump from row number 1 to row number 2. From row number 2 in our breadboard, we're going to go from row number 2 to row number 4 to put a resistor in there, and then we're going to complete the circuit back to our Uno by going from row number 4 back to the ground port on our Arduino Uno. So that's going to give us a circuit which is supplying 5 volts to our photoresistor. It's then going to be going through our 10K resistor and then back to ground. Now what we need to do in order to actually get the readings is to take the reading of the change in resistance over this circuit. What happens with the photocell is as it becomes more light, the resistance is reduced, and so therefore that means that we're able to measure that, because the increase in resistance across the circuit is able to be measured. So what we're going to do is go back to row number 2, where we've got one of the legs of the photocell and one of the legs of the resistor, and plug a 3rd cable into that cell, so that's row number 2. We're then going to run from row number 2, and we're going to have a look on our Arduino and find analog port number 0. We're going to take that green cable and plug it into A0, and that's going to give us the circuit we require. So we've got our photocell circuit, we've got a analog reading coming into A2, which we can then go and code. So let's take that across to our computer to code. Alright, so now what we're going to do is actually code that circuit in order to take some readings, or some light readings. So I've brought it across here to my computer. I've got my Arduino plugged in using a USB cable. You can see across the top here I've already told it the type of board I'm using, and I've told it the port that it is actually connected to. So let's have a look at this code and see what it does. So the first line here is actually saying which port, or which analog port, our photoresistor and our 10K resistor are plugged into. So we've plugged them into analog port number 0, and so that's that first line. The second variable is going to actually store the reading from the sensor, and then what we're going to do is we're going to have to read that, or we're going to have to display that somewhere so that we can actually see it. So here in the setup section of our code, we're saying to open up a serial connection with the computer, and so that way we're going to be able to send the values back to the computer and be able to view those through the serial monitor. Then within our looping section of our code, this is the section of the code that runs over and over while the Uno is powered. We're going to take a reading of the photocell pin, which is pin 0, and then we're going to write that to the actual serial port. So you can see we've got serial print, the analog reading is equal to, and then the value that we read. We're going to delay 100 microseconds, and then we're going to repeat that, and so it's going to keep looping, taking readings of the available light, or giving us a number to represent the available light, and showing us printing that number out. So let's upload that and run it on the Arduino. So first of all, it's going to compile that code, and then it's uploading it to the Uno board, and then I'll show you how to actually use the serial monitor to view that. So at the moment, the code is running on the board, and so then what we can do using Codebender is open up the serial monitor. And the serial monitor is going to give us a little window down the bottom here where we're able to read what's coming in from the USB port. So you can see I'm going to connect to that, and there's the readings for my light. So at the moment it's fairly consistent because I'm not giving it any shadow, but as I move my hand over the top of the board, you can see that the light available to the photoresistor reduces, and therefore the number also reduces. And so that's giving us a reading of the available light running to the photocell. So if we wanted then to hook this up to an automatic light sensor, we can take those readings, and you can see they're about 730, and when I put it into shadow, it's going to drop down to around 300 or 400. And so we could say that if this value is less than 500, then we could turn on a separate light. And so we can use this type of serial reading in order to create an automatic light or similar.